Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I saw this story and I really wanted to talk about it because we can all relate to it. This is a story about a man called Sylvester Ofori. You may have come across his name recently on the internet because of what he did. So he is a pastor. He's based in Florida. He was married to a woman named Barbara. I believe she was in her late 20s or early 30s or something. A very pretty lady that he was married to. And, this story pretty much, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the story itself. However, I will give a brief summary of what happened. It's kind of graphic, so I'm not going to get into the graphic details because it's just not something that I do. But basically, he was married to her, but then they started to have problems, and long story short, she is dead and he is charged with, first degree, as you can see in the photo that I uploaded. If you want the full story, I will put a link in the description, but I want to show this video. This video was actually taken a few days before the incident, and it shows the pastor himself, the prophet Sylvester, talking very heatedly to Barbara's brother, so his wife's brother, and he was threatening Barbara's life basically, to Barbara's brother's face, and it was just so scary. And Barbara's brother was telling the both women in the house, because there are two women in the house, one is filming and then Barbara's the other one. You're gonna see her come out of the room gathering her things. He was saying, call the cops, call the cops. But the women were just dragging their feet. Like, Barbara did not want to escalate the situation, so she said no, that would be a bad idea. The other woman filming also did not really try to call the cops. She was just trying to get Barbara out of the house. And they're all trying to help, but you can just tell by their body language how each person reacts to this kind of threat. The brother is livid and he's saying they need to take this seriously. As soon as Sylvester leaves the room, you can see him close the door and lock it so he cannot come back in. However, Barbara and the woman filming, I don't know if it's Barbara's sister, but there's another woman filming, and Barbara is saying that she wants to come back to get the rest of her stuff, and it's just like, really? Can you just send someone else to come get your stuff and try to get out of there as quickly as possible? But she seems to me to be just tired of the situation and she would like for it to end, but at the same time she's not as freaked out but by her husband's threat as her brother is. And it's just really crazy. It's a very sad clip to see, and yeah, I just wanted to show how different people react to this kinds of situation. The brother was not having it at all, but Barbara was just, I don't think she really believed that he was going to carry out the threats that Sylvester made. And you can kind of see her in the video just really calm and gathering her things. Same story. We hear this so many times. It's crazy. It's like it's almost the norm now for marriages to end this way for a lot of people, and it's really, really sad. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is that there were so many red flags with this guy. So many red flags. And the wife, she probably saw the red flags, but she just did not think that her life was going to end the way that it did. And this is a very common thing. Over and over again, when we get to know people and we begin to see the red flags kind of shows itself very slowly and gradually. And when we see the first one, it's usually not a very big deal because it's just more like a sign of things yet to come. But because we don't know what's coming, we tend to overlook the first few red flags. So we overlook the first one, and then we overlook the second one, and then we overlook the third one. And before we know it, we're so used to seeing all of these red flags from someone that we know that it's no longer a big deal to us. We're no longer shocked by it, and it's easy for us to dismiss it. To make matters worse, we also glamorize dysfunctional relationships a lot. You just have to go on social media and look at some of your favorite celebrities, and you would see that they have a way of, perhaps unintentionally, but they do have a way of glamorizing their dysfunctional relationships. Recently, one that we've seen recently is that of Summer Walker. We've seen her go back and forth with her boyfriend, and she puts all of that on social media. And you can tell when a person is glamorizing the dysfunction of their relationship versus when a person is just putting their business on social media to gain some kind of support or opinion or something. You can tell the difference. When a person is glamorizing their dysfunctional relationships, they make sure that they depict both romance and the negativity that they experience in their relationship, and actual glamour, fashion wise glamour, and wealth. At least two of these is always in the mix when a person is trying to glamorize their dysfunctional relationship and make it seem as though it's a cute thing or it's a normal thing. These things can be very problematic because it makes people think that this is what marriage is. Believe it or not, there are some marriages where the couples do not fight. They argue a little, but they do not fight. I know that for a fact, that there are couples that do not fight at all. They just will disagree on a few things briefly, but they know how to end their disagreement before it turns into a fight. And I'm not even talking about physical fight, because I mean, honestly, these days, I don't know. It's like everybody just engages in physical fights these days. I personally did not even grow up seeing that, but you know, I've seen that with my neighbors. But growing up in my house, the physically fighting was, you would see kids fighting, but you don't see adults fighting physically, but even as far as verbal altercation and yelling, there are couples that do not do that. I know couples that don't do that. I know them like the back of my hand. That they do not get into verbal altercations. They don't raise their voices at themselves, and when they have disagreements, the kids in the house will not even notice that they're having disagreement. That's how discreet they are. But when dysfunctional relationships are being glamorized like this, people begin to feel, how do I put this? People get more desensitized to the level of aggression that they are deciding to put up with in their own household. So that when their partner does something physically aggressive, or not even physically aggressive, even if it's verbal, it could be a threat, as you can see in this video here, in this circumstance. Even if it's a verbal threat, they get desensitized and they dismiss it as if the person threatening them does not mean what they said. But sometimes by the time the victims realize that the other person meant their threat, it's usually too late. And there's nothing they can do about it. They already lost their lives, or some very serious damage has been done. I'm not saying that this woman, Barbara, dismissed her husband's threats. However, I'm saying that of all the red flags that one could see, if she knew that things were going to end this way for her, she would have distanced herself sooner from him. And quite frankly, in her case, now that I think about it, it would not have helped because he followed her to her place of work to do this. So distancing herself would not have helped. So does that mean that her outcome was inevitable? No, I don't think that the way things ended for her was inevitable, and it would have happened anyway because he would have followed her. In order to prevent something like this from happening, well, we have to do our homework. You can't just end up with anybody just because they're cute, or because they're adorable in the way that they act, or because you two look good together, because that is one of the number one reasons why people end up with and stay with people that are abusive to them, is because they look good together. And when they're out and about, people look at them and people tell them, oh my god, you guys look so good together, or you're so cute together, or what a cute couple, oh this is adorable, your kids are going to be so cute. Things like that can actually do a lot of damage to people that are already in a vulnerable state of mind, because a person that is getting married to escape a negative situation, for instance, when they finally find someone that generates this amount of compliments for them, and people are constantly telling them that they look cute with their new partner and their kids are going to be so cute, a person that's in a vulnerable emotional state is going to take that a little bit more seriously than they probably should. And they might use that as a huge deciding factor as to whether or not to stay in that relationship. Because if you're giving people all this positive feedback and constant positive feedback about the person they're with based on superficial reasons, which is their looks and what their kids are going to look like, that these reasons are superficial, and that this is not something, these kinds of reasons are not the reasons that you base your marriage on. Marriage is a very serious thing. It will test you to no limit, and it will bring out the worst in some people. So it is not the time to get to base your decision on how a person looks. In this case, had she done her homework and really gotten to know the guy, I don't want to speak to her case specifically because I really don't feel comfortable because of what happened to her, but I'm just going to speak generally. If people would just take as much time as they need to get to know the people they're getting married to and get to know how they act when they're put in a tight spot, how they act when they're very angry, how they act in different situations, how do they handle stress. Like, these are the kinds of things you're supposed to be looking out for when you're dating a person. That's the whole point of dating. But I feel like when people date, they date with the intention of getting to know the person they're dating. But when negative qualities begin to rear its head from the person that they like, they overlook it and they just like brush it aside because they really want to be with that person or because they really want to be married, and they just ignore all of the negative things that they see surrounding that person. And then it's like, that defeats the purpose of dating in the first place, because what's the point of dating if you're just going to ignore all the red flags that you see? A violent person, a person that gets angry enough to commit this kind of a crime, they, especially guys, they don't hide it very well. They're not very good at hiding it. Women are very good at picking up on men's true personalities. It's just that sometimes we like a guy so much that we choose to ignore it and we lie to ourselves. We women, we do that a lot. We lie to ourselves a lot. So we lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that, this is just, it's not that big of a deal, even though it clearly is. So the point of dating is to get to know how dangerous is this person when they're really angry, how do they handle stress, what kind of a person are they truly, what is their opinion on women, or what is their opinion on men. And these are the kinds of questions we should answer before getting into relationships so that we can avoid this sort of a thing from happening. And a part of me feel as though people are reluctant to get out of abusive relationships because of how they would look to other people. A lot of people, when they get married, their marriage is such a significant event in their life, and everybody that they know attends their marriage and they're happy for them, and it's a very pleasant and happy moment for them, that when they're finally married, they don't want to have to tell anybody that their marriage did not work or that they had to end it for domestic reasons, or for violence reasons. And they actually would choose to stay in that marriage and try to hang on for as long as they can, because they feel like they are failing if their marriage fails. And I don't think that people should take it as a personal failure if they get themselves out of a difficult situation like this. They should be triumphant about it. It should be something that they should be proud of, not something that they should be shamed into. I've known someone that was in a marriage that they wanted to get out of, and everybody kept advising them to stay and try to work it out. But you know what? Sometimes you just cannot advise people to stay in a marriage when they're ready to leave, because there may be reasons that's causing them to want to leave that they have not shared. No matter how much they share, there might be something that they just have not shared with you. So let's not encourage people to stay in their marriage just because they smile a lot when they're out together, or he seems to provide, or she seems to provide for the kids, so the couple should stay together. It's not always that simple. It's more complex than that. I was very curious about this guy, Sylvester. He calls himself a prophet, right? His followers call him a prophet, or they used to call him a prophet. First of all, calling yourself a prophet is that in itself is some kind of a red flag, because it's a level of hubris that I can't even talk about. And I got really curious about his Facebook, so I looked through his Facebook account. I just did a quick skim through his Facebook account, and I was looking at the kinds of things that he posts. Social media can really tell you about a person. It can really clue you in on the true personality and what's really going on inside of that person's mind, regardless of what's coming out of their mouth. And when a person that's supposed to be a prophet and a preacher is posting things like, one thing people got to understand about extremely kind, nice, loving people is that their other side is just as extreme. Come on. It doesn't take a very intelligent person to understand that it is not the first part of that quote that he was really focused on. He was focused on the last part of the quote. And it tells you something about his state of mind, which is he might not have the absolute control. He might not have complete control of his emotions, especially when he gets angry, because that's what he's hinting at. And another quote that I saw on his Facebook is one where he showed a tiger, and he talked about how the woman's tongue is worse than a tiger. This is a preacher. This is a prophet. This is supposed to be an upstanding person that people look up to. Like, he preaches in church. He gives motivational speeches and things like that, and he is talking about the woman's tongue is worse than that of a tiger. Clearly clearly this man has a problem with women. And I'm not going based off of this quote alone. There are some men that if you listen to their to the things that they post on their social media, the things that they say, sometimes the way that they phrase things, it will really clue you in on how they really feel about certain groups of people. And this man Sylvester strikes me as the kind of guy that kind of have some deep-seated I don't want to say anger necessarily towards women, but he has a negative view of women. He has some deep-seated negative view of women, and it comes out in his posts. And there's just some underlying negativity around his posts. And a lot of his posts are not all rainbow and sunshine. They're just kind of dark. There's a certain like darkness and negativity surrounding his posts, and that's just not something you want to overlook when you're friends with someone, and especially if they're a prophet and they preach to other people and they're supposed to be motivating and someone that other people can look up to. There's just something dark and angry about this guy, and it's really, really sad what happened to his wife. I just wish that we will begin to take the things that we see about other people a little bit more seriously and trust what they say they're going to do to us, if we have the luxury of knowing what they really want to do to us. Because not everybody is going to give a verbal threat before they carry it out. Some people just keep quiet, they keep it to themselves, and then they act, and you never really see it coming. But some people will say exactly how they feel. At one point or another, if you pay attention, they will tell you how they feel, and you should take that seriously. If they threaten you, you need to take it seriously so that we can avoid, being in these kinds of situations. And yeah, it's just really sad. I just really wanted to talk about this and say, let's stop glamorizing dysfunctional relationships. It's not cute, it's not glamorous, there's no reason why we should put a positive spin on it. It's wrong, and we need to avoid it at all costs, and avoid ourselves from being in these kinds of situations. And pay attention to what people show you and what people say to you, especially what people show you, because that's where the real truth is. It doesn't matter what a person is saying to you. It's what matters is what they show you with their actions. So that's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.